Welcome to the very first episode of the T-Side Podcast. I'm your host, Tawnya D. Thank you so much for joining me. I tell you, this has been a journey to say the least. From overcoming tech challenges, i.e. me trying to figure out how to use technology, overcoming self-doubt, to just dealing with life in the age of Rona, as well as trying to figure out how to format the show. I actually went on a bit of a journey of self-discovery, which changed up a little bit of how the show was going to flow. So finally, I am here, and I must thank my village for hyping me up and giving me the encouragement to go ahead and do this, because I am not one to really speak up. I'm more of a low-key person, and I just observe. I'm not going to keep you long, but I do want to give you all a little bit of background about me, why I decided to start the podcast, and what you can expect. As I said, my name is Tawnya. It's pronounced Tawnya. If you looked at the spelling, the W probably threw you off and you thought it was Tawana. I've learned to embrace the difference in the spelling of my name over the years. I'm from St. Louis, born and raised. I am 46, never been married. I have no children that I gave birth to, but I do have a lot of godchildren. The oldest one is probably close to 30 now, but my number one baby is my brother, who will actually soon be 40. Wow, he's getting old. And as I said, although I don't have any children of my own, my first love is children. I love little people. So my bachelor's degree is in child development. I have my master's and license in social work. And in 2019, I completed my training to become a birth as well as a postpartum doula. As I said, I'm more of a low-key person. I would consider myself very much an introvert. I am a chronic overthinker and definitely awkward. Have you ever seen the show that Issa Rae put out online before she did Insecure? It was called the Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl. Yeah, that would be me. I have to laugh at myself because that show definitely sums it up. I'll have to post a clip of the show. It's on YouTube if you want to look for it. It's hilarious. I would also consider myself a foodie. I love food. I actually like to bake. I don't do it as much now. And I love to do crafts. I'm always wanting to make something. And for me, it's a stress reliever. So I just do it as a hobby. Aside from that, I used to bake and do crafts more before I developed all of the current health issues I have, which is rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. So that limits my energy and how much I'm able to do on any given day. That in itself is a whole issue. But I would say my one true love is music. It always has been, always will be. Because I don't have any kids, I'm not married, and I love to travel. I will travel to a concert. I'll talk more about my relationship with music next week, but I do have to go ahead and let you all know, and people who know me already know what I'm going to say. My favorite group is New Edition. Yes, I'm an Any for Lifer. Shout out to all the Any for Lifers out there. Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike, Ralph, and Johnny too. Candy Girl since 1983. And for those who might want to know, Ralph Tresvant is my favorite. However, I'm a double R. So Ralph Tresvant and Ronnie DeVoe are my favorite members of New Edition. Before Corona hit, one of my favorite things to do was travel. And honestly, I think that's what I missed the most out of this whole pandemic, is being able to travel. And mainly I would travel to go to concerts. So, since I don't have any children, not married, I spend my extra money on crafts and traveling and attending concerts. I haven't been to a concert since since October of 2019. So it's literally been a whole year. I have been watching some online. It's not quite the same, but it helps me make it through. So just a little bit about why I decided to start the podcast. Honestly, at this point in my life, I had to ask myself, why not? I've been saying for years, even before I believed podcasting was a whole thing. I remember telling my brother, I need my own radio show. I got a lot to say. It was just kind of a thought. I never knew how. I didn't think I would be on the radio or have a radio show. I didn't really have anything that anybody would really want to hear per se. I just know I have a lot of opinions. Roll around to however long ago when all of the Real Housewives shows started coming out. I remember talking to my friends and they were like, these shows are ridiculous. These are not Real Housewives. We are Real Housewives. We'll be the Real Housewives of St. Louis. I was like, yeah, we could do that. We could have our own show. And then I was like, we could call it Kitchen Table Talk. Again, this is me having thoughts. I always have a lot of thoughts. It's my follow through that needs a little work. Next thing you know, Jada Pinkett Smith comes out with Red Table Talk. I'm like, man, see, if I would have just done it, but I didn't. And then I believe it's probably sometime last year, I have a group chat with some of my friends, and we always talk about all these different issues in life and things that are happening from, dealing with kids and relationships, work, stress. And I was like, man, we really need to just have our own show. And they were like, yeah, we should do that. That would be cool. We had segments and everything. Turns out it was going to be called This Thing Called Life. And little did I know, because I hadn't really looked up podcasting, how many people actually use that name. So at that time, we were just trying to figure out, how do you even do a podcast? Do you need microphones? Can you just record it on your phone? Again, we're in our 40s. We don't know all this technology stuff. So in the process of researching it, life continued to happen. We never did it. Roll around to coronavirus and basically everybody's just sitting in the house doing nothing. And I saw friend of mine on Instagram, posted that she had taken a free podcast course. So I was like, oh, I'll go on there and look at it and see what it's about. Went back, told my friends about it. And with things they had going on, they weren't able to really commit. So that was the first hurdle. I had to figure out, one, if I wanted to do it by myself, because honestly, I feel a little weird. I feel like I'm talking to myself. I didn't want to feel like I was teaching. I'd prefer to have more of a conversation. So here I am. I'm having a conversation with you. So I had to get comfortable with that and figure out exactly what I wanted to talk about. Then I started thinking, who really wants to hear what I have to say? And as I thought about it, a lot of people want to hear what I have to say because I have been sharing. I share information with my friends, with my clients. I've got a lot of life experience. I've been working in the social work field for close to 25 years. And when I tell you aside from social work, I've worked, because I usually work 2 jobs. I'll just say that. So I've worked in retail. I've cleaned buildings, doing maintenance work. I've worked in a factory. I've worked in a daycare. Doing social work, I've actually worked in a hospital, schools, a prison, a GED program, as well as managed behavioral health or managed care on the insurance side. I've also supervised students working towards getting their degree and or their license for social work. So I've got a lot of experience. So along with that experience, when I talk about things, I draw from personal experience. I've been there, I've worked there, and felt many of the same things that everybody else has been feeling, which is how I actually came up with the name for the show. Aside from it being related to music, there's always, they say there's 2 sides to every story. Well, there's my professional side, there's my side as the client, and then somewhere in the middle, there's me, Tawnya, hence the name The T Side. For the things that I haven't personally experienced or been through, I have encountered people who have. Although I don't talk about it much, mainly because it freaks people out, I am an empath, which allows me to feel what someone else is feeling. It makes me a great therapist, but it's also very mentally draining. And no, being an empath does not mean I'm psychic. I don't predict the future. I don't talk to dead people, but I literally can feel. If you're upset, it makes me upset. If you're happy, I'm super happy. Also, sometimes I can actually physically feel something that somebody else is experiencing. So if you're telling me about how you busted your knee or how you fell and hurt yourself, I will feel it in that particular body part. Very weird to me. I'm still working on developing that just so I don't feel so freaked out by it myself. But that is something that everybody has, not necessarily the physical sensation, but most people have that intuition. It's just how well you pay attention and develop that intuition that makes a difference. Finally, what can you expect? Well, you can expect single episodes from me talking about how I work through some of my personal struggles with depression, abuse, grief, work-life balance, and most recently, chronic health issues. You'll get a chance to hear from guests that I'll be bringing on to share their insight on various topics like dealing with intergenerational trauma, birth work, and women's health, among other things. I'll even have some friends and family drop by to chat it up with me from time to time. I'll also be introducing different segments, including random thoughts, just because I have a lot of them. And usually they are at sometimes the most inopportune times, but it doesn't matter. I still think about it because, again, I'm an overthinker. Because I am a therapist, I will be talking about what's going on, letting you know how I'm doing, checking in to see how you're doing. And I do want to highlight some positive people, things going on in the world. So I will have a segment, #more of this, because we need more positivity in the world. However, I am a Sagittarius, so I get bored easily. So as the show goes along and expands, I might switch things up. You never know. But one segment I will always have is a song of the day or mood music. And today, my current mood is Stressed Out by the 21 Pilots, because doing this podcast and recording this initial episode has really stressed me out. But I made it through, and I do thank you for listening. I'm going to end this one right here, but I do want to dedicate my first show to my dad, just because he would always want to know what's going on with his kids. What are you doing? Where have you been? And where are you going next? So I just want to say to Big Joe, in a minute. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the T-Side Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at the T-Side Podcast, all one word. If you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes to rate, review, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes. And be sure to tell a friend about the show. Until next time.